All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of Homi Bhabha. Now, you probably know that name, right? It's basically synonymous with India's nuclear program. But what we're going to see is that his vision, well, it was so much bigger than that. He was on a mission to build the scientific soul of an entire nation. So, to really get a grip on Bhabha's mission, you've got to understand the man himself. And let me tell you, the way people who knew him talked about him, it was nothing short of epic. I mean, think about that for a second. The modern equivalent of Leonardo da Vinci. And this wasn't just some, flowery praise from a friend. This was Nobel laureate C.V. Raman saying this. And honestly, it was a stunningly accurate description of just how unbelievably talented this guy was. Yeah, he was so much more than just a physicist in a lab. I mean, he was an accomplished, award-winning painter. His self-portrait actually won a prize when he was only 17. On top of that, a huge classical music and opera fan. And get this, he actually pushed for the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAE, to be based in Vienna. Why? Well, one of the big reasons was so he could catch the opera while he was there for meetings. Unbelievable, right? It was this exact mix of art, science, and, a bit of savvy diplomacy that he brought to his biggest project yet, building a nation. So you have this brilliant guy, a true Renaissance man. Where does he find his calling? You might think it'd be in a comfortable, prestigious career in Europe, but no. His ultimate purpose was found right back at home, facing a truly monumental challenge. Okay, so picture this. It's 1939. Bhabha's back in India from Cambridge, just for his usual vacation. Then, bam, World War II breaks out. He's suddenly stranded, can't get back to England. And right there, he's faced with a choice that would literally change the course of Indian history. And this quote, this is from a letter he wrote to his dad. It just tells you everything about his mindset. This wasn't just him making the best of a bad situation. No, this was a deep, burning passion. He had to do physics. And that fire, that ambition, he was about to point it directly at the future of his own country. So Bhabha looks around at India, on the cusp of independence, and he sees all this incredible potential. But he also sees a huge problem. There are no world-class scientific institutions, nothing to really push the country into the modern age. He saw all these brilliant people scattered around, with no way to do their best work, no real support. But here's the thing about Bhabha. He didn't just spot problems. He came up with solutions. In 1944, he writes this incredibly important proposal to the famous industrialist J.R.D. Tata. And his argument was simple but powerful. Fundamental physics, he said, is the spearhead of research. It's the sharp point that cuts through first, allowing everything else, like industry and technology, to follow. And that letter, that was it. That was the start of his life's mission. Okay, so now he's got the backing of the Tata Trust and, crucially, Prime Minister Nehru, who he became really close friends with. And with that support, Bhabha just hits the ground running. He starts executing his vision with a speed and ambition that is just honestly hard to believe. I mean, look at this timeline. It's just wild. We're talking about 15 years. In just a decade and a half, he went from an idea, a proposal on paper, to building an entire nuclear ecosystem literally from scratch. He turned that vision into concrete, steel, and, yes, fissile material. And this was his masterstroke, his 3-stage nuclear program. It was so elegant and incredibly forward-thinking. See, most countries were betting everything on uranium, but Bhabha knew India didn't have a lot of that. What it did have was one of the world's largest reserves of thorium. So he designed this whole program to use what India had to create a completely self-sufficient path to energy independence. It was a uniquely Indian solution to an Indian problem. So Bhabha's on this path, building up India's capacity for peaceful nuclear energy. But then a geopolitical earthquake hits. And it's one that's going to throw India into a really deep, really divisive national debate. That trigger? China tests its first atomic bomb. That explosion in the desert sends massive shockwaves all the way to New Delhi. All of a sudden, the whole conversation changes. It's not just about energy anymore. Now, it's about survival, about national security. And who steps up to lead this new, urgent debate? Homi Bhabha. And he doesn't waste any time. We're talking days after the Chinese test, Bhabha is on national radio, making his case to the entire country. And his argument is blunt. The only real way to defend yourself from a country with a nuke is to have a nuke of your own. He completely reframed the issue as a matter of pure national survival. And then, On that same broadcast, he drops this absolute bombshell. He claims that India could build a powerful 2-megaton bomb for just $600,000. Now, people later pointed out that this number didn't really include all the massive infrastructure costs, but that didn't matter. Politically, the impact was huge. It made having a nuclear bomb seem not just necessary, but suddenly shockingly affordable. This, as you can imagine, put him on a direct collision course with the Prime Minister at the time, Lal Bahadur Shastri. And what you had was this classic, dramatic clash of ideas. On one side, you have Bhabha, the scientific pragmatist, all about deterrence and security. And on the other, you have Shastri, coming from a place of Gandhian morality, deeply worried about an arms race and arguing that the country needed to spend money on food, not bombs. So what happens? Well, in a very Indian way, they reach a compromise. The Prime Minister, Shastri, publicly sticks to his no-bomb stance. But behind the scenes, he gives Bhabha the green light to start research on something called peaceful nuclear explosives, PNEs. Now, officially, these were for things like digging canals or huge construction projects. But let's be real, the technology for a peaceful explosion and a weapon is pretty much the same. This was the move that created the technical foundation for a future bomb. It became known as India's nuclear option. So Bhabha had done it. He had put India on a path, a nuclear path, that it would never really turn back from. But in a truly tragic twist, he would never get to see where that path led. On January 24th, 1966, Homi Bhabha was on his way to a meeting in Vienna, the very city he loved, the one he'd chosen for its opera. His plane, Air India Flight 101, crashed into Mont Blanc. Just like that, at the absolute peak of his influence, his mission was cut short. And it left this massive hole in India's scientific world, a huge, unfinished legacy. So when you look back, what's his real legacy? It's so much bigger than just one program. The institutions he built, the Atomic Energy Center that was renamed BARC in his honor, TFIR, they became the bedrock of modern Indian science. The incredible modern art collection he built at TFIR gave a home to a whole new generation of Indian artists. So, you see, he didn't just build a nuclear program, he built the very infrastructure for science and culture in India, and that legacy is still thriving today. And it all leaves you with this one big, provocative question, doesn't it? Scientist, builder, diplomat, artist, the man achieved so much so fast. If not for that tragic crash, what else could he have done? How else might Homi Bhabha's mission have transformed India? It's just an incredible thing to think about. The immense, unrealized potential of one person on a mission.